Josh. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I learned the truth from through the spirit and power of YaHaWaH, Bahashim, Yahawashi. YaHaWaH is the true name of the God of Israel. YaHaWashi is who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is YaHaWashi. And pretty much this is going to be a video pretty much laying back in off of the recent video I just did. And the topic I'm going to go into is that the prophets and the men of the Lord are the Most High's husbandry, right? Because when you read Matthew 13 and 38, it says that the field is the world. So when you read the scriptures, it compares agriculture and farming to this truth. How this truth is very, laborious. It may take time for fruit to come in. It may take time for these particular prophecies to come to pass, so that the end could finally come and YaHaWaH could come back, deliver the elect, establish the kingdom. But before that, it's a laborer's work. Your channels get taken down. You got to deal with scoffers and mockers, and then you go into your own personal trial and tribulation. All right. So let's get into it. So I typed in husbandry Bible. This is what popped up. AI overview. It says in the Bible, husbandry refers to agriculture, farming, and the stewardship of land and livestock. It is often used figuratively to describe spiritual cultivation, stewardship, and the Most High's relationship with his people. Who is the Most High's people? The seed line of Israel, which are the 12 tribes of Israel, which today they're being called so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. It says the Bible depicts farming, husbandry, as a divine art taught by the Most High. And then it got particular scriptures here. Isaiah chapter 28, verses 24 through 28, featuring key terms like husbandman, farmer, and vineyard to represent labor and spiritual fruitfulness, right? It says key biblical aspects of husbandry. Definition. Husbandry pertains to the business of a farmer, including cultivation, tilling, and managing livestock. It is also defined in biblical context as stewardship, thrift, and managing household affairs. Figuratively usage. The Most High as husbandman. YaHaWaH describes YaHaWaH the Father as the husbandman, aka the vine dresser, who tends to the vine, the church, which the church is the Israelites. When you go into the word Strong's G 1577, it's the Greek word ecclesia, all right? And then one of the definitions for ecclesia is the assembly of Israelite men. It says pruning it for greater fruitfulness. And then they have John 15 and 1. It says the church as field. Christians, which the original Christians were Jews that followed the Messiah. Read Acts the 6th chapter, Acts the 11th chapter, and you can even read Acts the 13th chapter. When you go into them particular chapters, it literally tells you who the Christians were. They were Jews that followed the Messiah. All right? That's what it means according to the New Testament to be a Christian. If you wasn't a Jew, the Most High, he wouldn't allow you to follow the Messiah. All right? Even if you thought, like how the woman at the well, how she thought she was an Israelite, because the previous generations of those Assyrian kings that put heathens into our land, they were living there. So she thought that she was an Israelite, but she wasn't. All right? The true worshipers that worship the Father in truth and in spirit is the elect of the nation of Israel. So it says Christians are referred to as the Most High's husbandry, or the Most High's tilled land, or the Most High's field. That's in 1 Corinthians 3:9, which I'm going to read. It says biblical examples and parables. Parable of the wicked husbandman. It says YaHaWaH illustrates stewardship, failures, and rejection by leaders through the parable of the vineyard, where servants are mistreated by the farmers. That's in Matthew chapter 21, verses 33 through 42. It says individual examples. Noah is noted as a husbandman. Genesis 9:20. It says, and Uzziah is praised for loving husbandry. That's in 2 Chronicles 26:10. It says techniques and practices. The Bible mentions agricultural techniques such as plowing, sowing seed, terrace farming, irrigation, and manuring. It says theological significance. It emphasizes the responsibility to manage land, labor faithfully, and the requirement of bringing forth fruit in their season. All right, so there you go. So now let's read this. So this is 1 Corinthians 3 and verse 6. It says, I have planted, Apollos watered, right? Now, who was Apollos? Let's figure that out. Let's go into the Strong's for the word Apollos, right? Right, Apollos, given by Apollo. So this individual Apollos, he was a learned Jew from Alexandria, which that's in Egypt, which if you know the history, there was a lot of Israelites that settled in Egypt. That's why even when, Herod, he saw that the Lord was being born, he saw that star, which really was a so-called UFO, a chariot of Israel. He tried to stop the Messiah from being born, and he wanted to persecute him. Before he did that, he was killing all the Israelite male babies, all right? So what did YaHaWah's biological earthly parents do? They fled into Egypt because there was a community of Israelites in Egypt, mainly Alexandria. So it says a learned Jew from Alexandria and mighty in the scriptures who became a Christian. Remember, Christians were Jews that followed the Messiah. Read Acts 6, Acts 11, and Acts 13. And the teacher of Christianity. When they say Christianity, they talking about the doctrine and gospel that YaHaWah and the 12 disciples and men of the Lord taught, which was only for Israel that was a part of the elect to receive, so that they could be made wise unto salvation through their faith in YaHaWah. All right? So that's who Apollos was. He was a learned Jew from Alexandria. So Paul is saying, I have planted, right? Planted what? This word. Apollos watered, but the Most High gave the increase. So it's the Most High that opens up the understanding through an actual angel, through your faith in YaHaWah. All right? A man can teach you all he wants, but if you're not a part of the elect, your mind, it won't open. You won't be able to receive the truth. So it says, so then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but the Most High that give the increase. Let's read that in the NLT. Let's see if it's more simplified from the Old English. This is, I'm just going to read in the NLT. It's better. 1 Corinthians 3 and 6, I have planted the seed in your hearts, right? The seed being the word. Going back to Luke, the 8th chapter, verse 11 on down, right? The seed is talking about the word. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. This is Luke 8 and 11. Now, the parable is this. The seed is the word of the Most High. What does a prophet or a preacher or a pastor teach you? He plants the seed by what? Teach you the word, right? So it says, now the parable is this. A parable is a dark saying. It says, is this. The seed is the word of the Most High. All right? Those, verse 12, those by the wayside are they that hear, then cometh the devil and taketh away the word out of their hearts. Hearts meaning their mind, lest they should believe and be saved. All right? So now we could jump back. So NLT, this is 1 Corinthians 3 and 6. I planted the seed in your hearts. You understand the seed is the word, and Apollos watered it, but it was the Most High who made it grow. And that's through predestination. Who's going to be able to receive the truth and who's not. It's not important who does the planting, meaning what prophet it is, right? It says, or who does the watering. What's important is that the Most High makes the seed grow. The one who plants and the one who waters work together with the same purpose, and both will be rewarded for their own hard work. All right? Being a husbandman, being a husbandry, tending to the Most High's livestock, tending to the elect, constantly feeding them with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, doing videos, doing live streams, having a street ministry, right? Enduring in this truth. It says, for we are both the Most High's workers, and you are the Most High's field, right? You are the Most High's building. Now, let's read that back in the KJV. It's going to be better. So there you go. It has the word husbandry there. 1 Corinthians 3:9, for we are laborers together with the Most High. So all the brothers that's in the camps, all the brothers that have the correct faith, they believe on the correct gospel and doctrine worldwide, we are laborers together, right? With the Most High. You are the Most High's husbandry. Let's go into the Greek word for husbandry.
Strong's G 1091. Georgian.
Yep. Husbandry, a cultivated field. Husbandry, tillage. All right, so there you go. So I'll read it again. 1 Corinthians 3:9. For we are laborers together with the Most High. Ye are the Most High's husbandry. Ye are the Most High's building. Going back to that third temple, which is a spiritual temple that represents the elect of the nation of Israel, which is a chosen priesthood through YaHaWaH's blood and sacrifice. All right. It says, yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted out of that. This is Matthew 13:38, because it says what? We are the Most High's field. It says Matthew 13:38, the field is the world, right? The good seed are the children of the kingdom. That's the Most High's field, right? It says, but the tares, which were Edomites that had Israelite mothers as fathers, and they had an Edomite father, right? They had an Israelite mother, and they had an Edomite father, right? They were tares. It says, because your nationality is determined by the seed of your father. It says, but the tares, which aren't Israelites, they had Edomite fathers, right, so-called white men, are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. So there you go. So at the end of the world, the Most High is going to use his angels to separate the elect of the nation of Israel from actual tares that was born and raised, just like how we was born and raised, thinking that they're Israelites, but really they're Edomites. All right. This is Ecclesiasticus, known as the Book of Sirach 7:15. Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High have ordained. Ordained meaning what? Foreordained, predestinate. Because the Most High predestinates everybody's lot and life to play out how he thought of it. So it says what? Hate not laborious work. So what's laborious about husbandry? This is why I typed in husbandry is laborious, right? This is from AHDAWAM. Husbandry, the practice of cultivating crops and rearing livestock, is widely recognized as a highly laborious, demanding, and often relentless endeavor. It requires daily, right? Because daily you got to link up the current events with Bible prophecies to understand the time period you're living in. You got to make sure the livestock, which is the elect, the believers of the nation of Israel, that they're being taught, the correct lessons, the correct doctrine, gospel, that you warn them from false prophets and false doctrine, right? Teaching them how to pray, serve the Lord, letting them know they're going to have to suffer and be patient, being in the truth. So that's tending to the Lord's flock. That's why he calls his men the husbandry, It says it requires daily, consistent effort to maintain animal health, secure food supplies, and manage infrastructure. It says key aspects of labor is husbandry. It says daily maintenance. Livestock requires constant attention, including feeding, watering, and monitoring with no holidays, meaning no breaks. The scriptures say what? Be instant in season and out of season. You have to be consistent. A true man of the Lord is not going to take breaks. So if you got a man that take breaks, he can't be a man of the Lord. I don't care how cool he is. I don't care how charitable he is, all the good things he done, all the wisdom, he said throughout all the years. He don't practice what he preach. It says waste management. A significant repetitive part of animal husbandry involves milking our stalls, managing manure. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but just search it up yourself. Matter of fact, I should see what it means. So here's the correct pronunciation, right?
Manure. Manure.
All right. Manure and cleaning bedding. It says physical toil and infrastructure. It says building and maintaining fences, shelters, and repairing equipment involves heavy physical work. And you could compare that to what? Us defending the gospel, right, from false prophets. It says seasonal demands. Agriculture involves intense labor periods, such as harvesting, which are often dedicated by weather and the natural growth cycle. Challenges and risks, 24/7 responsibility. This is why here at Great Millstone we do videos 24/7. Livestock, particularly dairy cattle, require milking or feeding regardless of the time or weather, often requiring 24/7 care. In the scriptures it make reference to husbandry, agriculture, sowing seed, farming, right? Give them the sincere milk, right? Paul taught daily. He taught daily in the marketplace in Agora. It says physical dangers. Animals can be large and unpredictable, leading to potential injury, and the work itself is often dirty and physically demanding. Emotional and financial strain. Rearing animals carries risks of disease, predator threats, and economic volatility, which can be emotionally draining. Yeah, the truth is emotionally draining. All right. So it says, your biblical view. The Bible instructs not to hate laborious work, neither husbandry, acknowledging it as ordained work that requires endurance, right? It says invisible labor. Historically, much of the husbandry work was labor-intensive, invisible work, sometimes performed by women or servants who were responsible for the day-to-day care of animals and the home. It says scientific labor. Modern animal husbandry involves complex scientific procedures such as managing animal nutrition and nitrobiotic systems, germ-free, which requires trained staff and attentive monitoring. It says, despite its labor's nature, many practitioners find it rewarding and essential, often viewing it as a way to produce healthy food and a sustainable lifestyle. So that's what labor is about it. So we're not supposed to hate it. Because if we don't do that, then the end won't come. Matthew 24:14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So this is why we got to be diligent, because if we're not diligent and keep planting these seeds, then the end will never come. But we know that the end is predestinated to come. All right, so Lord willing, we was edified by the lesson. Shalom.